This is Carl with your weekly livestock update from Conscious Egg Consulting. A little bit of a volatile week here for us, a little bit more trade activity in the livestock complex. Not really big market movers, so to speak. We had some big stories during the week, but all things considered, most of the week's activity still focused around the cash markets and inventory and movement. We did see cash cattle at the end of the week back off $3 to $5 in most areas. Live negotiated cattle. Dressed weights down a little bit harder than that. Some dressed weights down $8 to $10 on the week. Not really a big week for movement at all. We got the weekly beef production on. It was steady from last week, around 560,000 head. Ran through the slaughter on cattle, hogs, 2.54 million hogs. Everything pretty much steady from last week. Depressed slaughter numbers, and that's to be expected. Look at the weather we had across the U.S. Bitter cold temperatures and storm systems really disrupted the movement. A couple big stories, though, that we did have during the week. One came out first. It was the case of another case of New World screwworm and Mexican cattle. The USDA basically shrugged it off and said we're not going to disrupt imports of feeders. We feel that the protocol for testing and the vaccination program is good enough that they don't need to do that. So feeder cattle took a little bit of a hit. We've been seeing some support from that, and that did weigh on feeder cattle during the week more than anything. Just like I said, the simple correction in values. Really light show lists this week. We're starting to see some feeders back away from these high-priced cattle, especially feed grains picking up this week. It led to some funds trimming their long position in both feeder and fat cattle. Funds buyers for last week, though, in hogs, adding back into that a little bit. I doubt if that lasts. We got some really negative news for the hog industry at the end of the week here, in my opinion. We got the export sales numbers out, and when we had decent sales for this year, for 2025, 2026, though, we saw cancellations. 12,400 metric tons of pork was washed out of for 2026. And what concerns me the most is the three buyers that washed out: Mexico, Canada, and China. I think we saw this one coming. That weighed on hogs into the close, and I get a feeling we're going to see that carry over into next week. Part of that from the economy, those countries saying, pork values, not seeing the demand they are, but I do feel the tariff talk may be a little bit more than what we think on those red meats. That is something, there's certain products that an importing country can cut back on, and red meat appears to be one of them. I'm a little concerned on that moving forward. We got the cattle on feed report out here Friday afternoon. Really nothing exciting there. Pretty much all is expected. The February 1st on feed, 99% of last year, right in line with trade expectations. January marketing's coming in at 102% and placements 101%, and pretty much everything in line with what trade was expecting then. Like I said, kind of a quiet week. We only had 4 days of trade. Nothing really jumped out at me. The cash markets, though, we're going to start paying a little more attention to these moving forward. And when I say the cash markets, I'm talking the retail side. We're going to start to see a little bit more interest, especially as some economic indicators turn a little bit negative for us here. Walmart predicting lower sales in 2025. We have some travel companies, Caribbean Cruise Lines, reporting low demand. The red meat market watches them pretty close. If we've seen consumers cut back, very well could see them cut back on those expenditures too. So all in all, it wasn't a bad week in the market. Just kind of traded. Next week, I'm sure we'll see more of this. We get the cold storage report next week. That'll be a big one. Check back next Friday. We'll have those numbers for you. But I think we're going to watch that cold storage after these cattle weights that we've been talking about. Might be a game changer. Until then, thank you.